A lovely atmosphere. I love a party with a lovely atmosphere, sang Russ Abbot in 1985 on his number 7 charting hit that next to no one remembers apart from us irony-drenched ancient nostalgia addicts. Perhaps the song, if 80s nerds did something as strange as holding parties for a particularly dreadful game not appearing on their system, maybe that's a song that would have been played at a soiree for ZX Spectrum owners. Surely it would have been a lovely atmosphere to realise that Adventures of Basildon Bond hadn't come out on your system. Yes, indeed, as that tortured introduction has indicated, The Adventures of Basildon Bond, released and programmed by Probe Entertainment, did not appear on my ZX Spectrum games based on TV show series, but it was going to, at least according to this advert. But before we get to the meat of the episode, let's have a look at the vegetables, or in this case, vegetable. Sorry, Russ Abbot. Russell Allen Roberts was a comedian, musician and an actor of Chester heritage that rose to prominence in the 1970s thanks to his comedy band The Black Abbots. Presumably, this is where he derived his religious professional moniker from. His career path would eventually take him to television and fully stars Variety Madhouse, joining the eponymous hamster-consuming funny man and long-term associate and modelist beauty Bella Emberg. Soon Freddie split to do his own thing and the show fell to his gangly second-in-command, old Russell here. That show, originally called Russ Abbot's Madhouse, subsequently changing its name to the rather boring Russ Abbot Show. The Russ Abbot Show ended up being a bit of a launchpad for B-list celebrities, with Michael Barrymore, Les Dennis, Dustin G, Jeffrey Holland and Cherie Hewson all coming out of the stable, with all but one of those not being involved in a man dying in a swimming pool. That's a good statistic by anyone's standards. The Russ Abbot Show was a comedy sketch affair, with the most popular characters being the violent C.U. Jimmy, and crucially to this episode, the pair of Cooperman, a fusion of Tommy Cooper and Superman, and the balaclava sporting secret agent Basildon Bond. The Russ Abbot Show was popular across the generational divide, particularly with kids, and so perhaps it shouldn't have come as a shock that Probe Software approached Abbott to turn one of his most popular sketches into a full-price computer game for the 8-bit formats. Well, I say it shouldn't come as a shock, but it's a bloody game about Russ Abbot, and that really should shock everybody. The Adventures of Basildon Bond was a 1986 side-scrolling adventure game released for the Amstrad CPC and the Commodore 64. The storyline has the eponymous agent tasked with collecting a series of codes within 5 hours under orders from his boss P. You see, Russ Abbot himself has been kidnapped, making this quite the meta-adventure. The secret to deciphering the codes relies on Basildon assembling parts of a joke and then inputting said joke in the main computer of the television studio he has infiltrated in order to rescue Russ Abbot. Don't think this is going to be a straightforward task for the daft spy. There are multiple steps involved with collecting the required objects, and the KGB has filled the studio with some villainous TV cameras that capture Bond and lock him in a computer room for 10 precious minutes of his limited 5-hour mission time. Basildon is powerless to stop these vicious video cameras despite his years of hand-to-hand combat training, and so has equipped a gun that carries in it the soul of his invincible sketch show mate, Cooperman. Yes, he carries a spoof superhero around with him like a bloody Pokemon. When launched, and you only get limited... Is ammo the right word? Cooper blasts. The player assumes control of the coiffured hero as he glides across the screen, hopefully taking out the evil electronic recording equipment with his big meaty fists. Occasionally, the rotund Blunder Woman will sub in for the flying, fighting funny man, and she does a far better job of clearing the screen than her bepenised counterpart, as she will go around the screen until all opponents are defeated. You unfortunately can only use the superpowered blastery 10 times, and there's no ammo anywhere, so you had better conserve your hero bullets for dangers unseen, especially as the cameras regenerate when you come back onto the screen that they are on. Basildon Bond is very much a somersault-free tribute to Epic's Impossible Mission game in its inspiration and look, if not its application. The cameras scooch about like the androids from that game. Animation is clearly a bit borrowed in Basildon's running style from that game. There's code cracking from that game. And old Baz, well, he's a bloody spy, isn't he? Just like that character from that there Impossible Mission game. Basildon isn't as lethal as the star of Impossible Mission, and the graphics overall are that kind of blocky that exemplified the worst aspects of lazy game design with Commodore 64 and Amstrad games. When programmers didn't try too hard, Commodore 64 and Amstrad games, they did suffer in the looks department. It's not a particularly enjoyable game either, really, which, in a way, is a perfect tribute to Russ and his oeuvre. Of the Commodore 64 release, CMVG gave it the highest praise in their April 1986 edition. They gave it an 80% and stated that while it's a pretty standard arcade adventure, it has nice graphics, adequate sound and a fair degree of playability. Doesn't sound like an 8 out of 10 to me, that. Have they tried being a little bit more enthused about games they give 80 out of 100 to? Commodore user gave it a 60% in the February 1986 edition of their magazine and said it was a well-executed tribute to Impossible Mission, perhaps without the class and the style of Epic's original, but rather that than a load of old drivel. I mean, yes, I guess, rather that than something terrible. Zap reviewed it in April 1986 and decided it was a substandard game which they couldn't really recommend to anyone apart from a really desperate arcade adventurer. They gave it a 43 out of 100, and they are probably right. Well, that's our dear friend Russ in the bag then. Next time out in this series, shall we have a look at the 16-bit consoles and Sequest DSV. Let's get all nautical, eh? Like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye.